Welcome to another episode of the League Alerts podcast. This is the second episode that me, Kamran Nia, Jaylen Fuller, and Josh Benson are recording together. The NBA, each team has played about 5 games so far. So we're going to be discussing individual players' performances, and some teams like the Suns, have they been doing really well? So let's go straight into it. Starting off with TJ Warren, obviously, as everyone knows, he's been on fire during the first 5 games that the Pacers have played. Let's start with Josh. What do you think of his performance so far?
I love it. I love random players that go off for like 5 games, or it might continue. I think it might continue. When he had that 16-point games against the 16-point game against the Suns, I kind of thought that the run had come to an end. And then he went for 39 points the last time out against the Lakers as he led them to a win, even though LeBron scored 34. I'm all for him. Oh, my bad. Sorry. I wish the Pacers could find a way to lose a game, though, because as a Celtics fan, I don't want the Sixers in the first round. And TJ Warren is doing everything he can to make sure they don't slip to the 6th seed.
Yeah, TJ Warren's playing really well. I don't know what's up with the Suns that they just completely shut him down. I wish when Sabonis was on the floor, TJ Warren played this well, because they could be really deadly, like TJ Warren and Sabonis together. That could be a super great duo. Do you think the Pacers are gonna go as far as they would with Sabonis with TJ Warren as their star, or do you think they'll go farther or shorter? We'll start with Jaylen.
No, because I think TJ Warren's streak has a lot to do with actually Domantas Sabonis not being on the floor because he's more involved in the offense. And what I really like about TJ Warren, he's not getting these points out of like isolation scoring. He's getting them in the flow of the offense, similar to like when Klay Thompson goes off or Stephen Curry goes off. Like he's not isolating like a James Harden or Kevin Durant. He's getting these off of like spot up threes, curls around the threes. I really like his flow, and he has a really good feel for the game right now. And Victor Oladipo is starting to get to his old self as well. So I think dealing in the Pacers, I think they'd be better off with Domantas Sabonis, but TJ Warren is definitely helping to fill that void as that first scoring option.
And to answer your question, are they going to go further or less? They're going to go exactly the same. They're going to get bounced in the first round either way. Then if they match up with Miami, they're not beating them. If they match up with the Celtics, it might be a sweep like it was last year. I don't think that they're going anywhere past the first round. And if they do, congratulations, you've got a date with Giannis in the second. So it makes no real difference to their actual success. But he might end up getting paid from it. So good for him. And it gives them a nice place to build for the future, definitely.
Josh said earlier about him coming out of nowhere. I wouldn't say that because people forget he was already an efficient 20-point per game scorer before this streak.
Yeah, but he's gone from an efficient 20 points a game to MJ Warren. Like, you couldn't have seen this coming from it.
I don't think anyone really predicted TJ Warren to explode for like 53 points, 39, 34, those type of numbers. Everyone said TJ Warren's going to step up maybe in Sabonis' absence, but I don't think people really expected these numbers. Warren's led the Suns to be 4-1 so far in their bubble games. Do you think he can be a superstar caliber player in the future, or is this just a hot stretch for him? We'll start with Josh. Seems like you have a reaction.
He's not going to be a superstar, all right? There's like 8 superstars in the league. He's never going to be a top 8 player. Yeah. He might maybe be an all-star in the East next year, but I doubt it with the caliber of forwards that are currently about Tatum, Siakam, Giannis. And
KD's
and of course Kevin Durant. Maybe he'll average 23 or something next season. He's not going to do this again. And anyone that thinks he does will probably be, well, they're just naive, if you ask me. But I might end up eating my words, but I feel fairly confident about this.
I think he'd be better off as a support star next year. I don't think he's ever going to be a man, the superstar, but he could be a really good second option, someone like Sabonis who could dominate in the post, and they could be not a first-round option, not a first-round exit next year.
Yeah, I think the Pacers are like a sneaky team in there. Like they have good players. Like if Sabonis wasn't out, I think they could have maybe pushed past the first round. But they have like Oladipo if he's healthy with Sabonis, a healthy Sabonis, and then now you have T.J. Warren. They could be a super deadly trio. I agree with you guys. I don't think he can really be a number one star because no one in the NBA can keep up this type of production, like averaging like over 36, 37. Like maybe you like Kevin Durant, James Harden, maybe we'll get there.
If you want.
But I don't think you're gonna average like incredible numbers like TJ Warren is. Moving to another team that's hot. Let's talk about the Suns. They're 5-0 so far in their bubble games. Do you think the Suns can win their final 3 games? They play the Thunder, the 76ers, and the Mavericks. We'll start with Jaylen.
I think they could beat the 76ers, but I don't want to overreact to the Phoenix Suns. Remember when the season started, they started 4-1. So they've had how should I say this? They've had like a habit of starting seasons well this season and the bubble season. So I don't think they're going to win their next 3 games. I think it's more of a really hot start, and I don't think Devin Booker is going to be able to keep this up as well as the high play that they're getting from their role players.
I agree. I don't think that for them to get into the playing game, they need a lot to go their way. And then they get to the playing game, and at the moment it looks like they're probably going to end up with the Blazers. And do you think they're going to beat the Blazers twice in a row? I personally don't.
No.
But me and Jaylen owe Fabrizio an apology for saying that the Suns were there just to make up the numbers. They've really impressed me, and Booker's been playing really, really well in the first near meaningful games in his career. So I'm hopeful for next season, but nothing's going to happen much this season, I don't think.
I think that the Suns will probably take 1 or 2 of their last. They'll win 1 or 2. I think they'll definitely beat the 76ers. The Thunder game's tough because Lou Dort is going to be guarding Booker. And then if Adams is back by the time, then he'll be guarding Aiden. I don't think they really, like, Mikal Bridges hasn't been playing that well, which was kind of shocking to me because the rest of his team is playing well. So I don't really think they have another guy to step up, at least right now. So I think they're definitely probably going to lose to the Thunder, and then we'll see how the Mavericks game plays out. What was your reaction to when Devin Booker hit that like amazing shot against the Clippers, Josh?
I was actually watching that game, and I hadn't had it on, and then I checked the score, and it was close to the end of the game, so I chucked it on, and it just keeps happening to Paul George, doesn't it? It seems like every memorable game winner in the last 5 years is right up in his grill.
That's what happens to
I couldn't believe it. My favorite thing about it is the screenshots that people have been posting of the Clippers fans in the background. It's comedy gold. It's so funny. Like I said, I've been really impressed with Booker, and I hope the hot streak continues, and I hope he keeps making game winners. But I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I wasn't watching that game either, but similar to you, I turned it on right at the end. And the Clippers played good defense at the end. Like Kawhi and Paul George were both up in his face, hit the turnaround. I thought that was really good. Going to talking about the 8th seed race, right now, the Blazers are just 1 game back of the Grizzlies, and then it's the Suns a game and a half back, Spurs 2 games, and then Pelicans and Kings are farther back. I think the Pelicans and the Kings, and maybe even the Spurs are kind of out of the running. Who's your prediction for the 8th seed after we watch the first 5 games? We'll start with John.
I think it's going to be the Blazers, and I hope it's going to be the Blazers as well. I think the reason I hope it's them is because they have the best chance to make it at least interesting with the Lakers, particularly with Bradley and Rondo out. They don't really have much in terms of ability to guard small offensive guards like Dame Lillard and CJ. In fact, if LeBron plays how he was the first 4 games in the bubble rather than his last game, the Lakers might go 7, and it might in a game 7. As much as LeBron's an all-time great, Dame tends to show up.
Yeah, exactly. I think my pick for the 8th seed is also Portland. If Portland can be in that play-in game, then I think or the 2 games maybe, I think they're definitely going to beat the Grizzlies like easily. Because the Grizzlies, I mean, they played really well against the Thunder, but the Grizzlies were down like 20 points off the bat, and I think the Thunder just lost their energy in that game. And without Steven Adams, they really struggled. But with they have Nurkic, a great center, and then you also have Dame and CJ McCollum. So I think the Blazers are really well equipped to take on anyone. And being a Thunder fan, I'd much rather see Portland in the second round than the Lakers, especially with the way that we played against the Lakers, except for the bubble game. I think an exciting rematch against Portland would be really fun in the second round if Portland can somehow pull off a win against the Lakers. So I'm really pulling for the Blazers to get that 8th seed, and I think they can definitely do it. The Suns, I don't think they can do it, as we talked about. We touched on it a bit earlier. I just think they're not equipped enough. Maybe if they play the Grizzlies somehow, maybe they'll be able to do something, but I just don't think they're well equipped. Jaylen, who's your pick for that 8th seed?
Yeah, I definitely think it's the Portland Trailblazers, and they're going to beat the Memphis Grizzlies back-to-back games. I think it will be pretty easy for them, especially with Jaren Jackson Jr. out. That's their second best player and their second option on the offensive side. So they'd be left with Brandon Clark to be able to have to take off a lot of load of John Morant, so there will be a lot on John Morant. And I don't think John Morant's ready to be that guy that just take over a game over someone like Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum.
And Melo. Just quickly,
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Spurs without Aldridge? Because just briefly, I'm looking to trade him if I'm the Spurs. They look so much more cohesive in offense without him. They look like they found an identity without him, and he doesn't quite fit with his slow, really methodical, on the block kind of game. Particularly in the modern era, I just don't think there's a space for him on a team that wants to overachieve with their players, like how the Thunder have, because that's the Spurs' best bet of doing well in next season is they overachieve and they just get together and the whole of the parts is greater than the sum, or whatever the saying goes. I think that's the best bet of winning, well, not winning anything, but getting to a 4, 5, or 6 seed. And I don't think Aldridge is the player that they can do that with.
DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge on the floor at the same time. The Spurs actually have a -8 net rating. The reason for that is LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan, they're both entirely too reliant on the mid-range jumper. And so when they try to push the pitch on like LaMarcus Aldridge, who's always, like Josh said, he's relying on that low block mid-range jumper. They seem to be in some type of identity crisis, as Josh said again, because like they want to push the pace with someone like DeJounte Murray, DeMar DeRozan, Lonnie Walker, but they can't do that with someone like LaMarcus Aldridge, who's gonna wind down the shot clock in the post and then like take a contested mid-range jumper with 5 seconds left in the shot clock.
Yeah, I agree. I think next year if the Spurs want to overachieve like the Thunder did, they're going to need something like innovative. Like the Thunder have their 3-guard lineup. I don't think the Spurs necessarily need something innovative like that, but they should use Lonnie Walker, use White. They're definitely young and they can catch fire, maybe go on some sort of streak in the middle of the season. Like the Thunder didn't start this season good. They were bad through the first 11 or 12 games, and then after Thanksgiving, they really picked it up. They had the second best record since Thanksgiving. So I think the Spurs are going to need to catch fire sometime in the middle of the season next year with White and Lonnie Walker. So I think those are the 2 players that are going to be like their X factors next year that they need to perform.
And Jakob Poeltl, I definitely think a lot of Aldridge's minutes could go to Jakob Poeltl. He's a really good rim protector. You know, he could space the floor a little bit, and he will actually run in transition, unlike LaMarcus Aldridge.
I think Popovich is gonna have to do a good job coaching, and I think he can definitely do that. And I think they're gonna have to use all the talent they have next year.
Pop should retire and let Duncan take that head coaching spot.
I think we just move on.
All right, moving on to the Lakers. They have struggled. They have struggled in the first 5 games in the bubble. They're 2-3. It seems like AD can't show up when he needs to, except in that one game that he went off for 40 against the Rockets. He really needed to show up, and he couldn't do that. They're 2-3. What are your playoff predictions for the Lakers, and do you think they can win it all, Josh?
I mean, any team with LeBron James and a second star has a chance to win it all. But LeBron averaging 21, 10, and 6 in the bubble and only shooting 28% from 3 is a bit concerning. Like, obviously, he's going to step it up come playoff time. And, you know, we've seen all the hashtag washed kings and all of that stuff. But it is the reason they aren't winning games. If LeBron's averaging his 29 like he was in the regular season and shooting the ball well, then they'd probably be more like 4-1 than 2-3. And also, he's somehow got worse at shooting free throws. He's now at 64% in the bubble. And it means that even though he's the best decision maker the basketball's ever had, you can't always put the ball in his hands at the end of the game because teams are just happy to foul him.
Yeah, I think if the Lakers want to win the championship this year, LeBron's going to have to step up and play like he has in playoffs before. They're going to need AD to play really well, especially if they face a team like the Rockets in the playoffs with their small ball. They're going to need to keep up, and AD is going to need to do a lot of the work. Obviously, Kyle Kuzma, he's going to also need to do some work as a third superstar. I think with LeBron's experience, and AD is obviously a really good player, I think there's always a chance for them. As you said, LeBron and another star, there's always going to be a chance they can heat up. We don't really know what's going to happen. I don't think these struggles early really concern me too much. It is a bit of a concern, but I don't think it concerns me too much.
AD with LeBron like struggling a bit, it's almost proved to me that he can't be the guy, because we saw it in New Orleans for however many years, and then he's come to LA and been phenomenal and they're winning games, and then LeBron has a bit of a slump in form and all of a sudden they're not winning games anymore, and it just maybe he'll get there. Maybe he will get to the point where he can be, you know, that guy on a team that does go to the finals and win. But right now, I'm not sure if he's ready for it.
Yeah, the thing with Anthony Davis, he's really good at creating for himself, but when he's not being efficient on offense, he's not the type of player like Giannis that can create for others. And speaking of the play creating outside of LeBron James, I feel like Avery Bradley was a bigger goal than we thought, because he's a lot better at playmaking, creating for others, than someone like J.R. Smith. And Dion Waiters, I like the pickup because he's a really good shot creator for himself, but he is a black hole. When Dion Waiters gets the ball, you're not getting it back. And I think that's a bit concerning at times, because without LeBron James to create for those other people, it's basically Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith dribbling, and Kyle Kuzma dribbling, taking step-back jumpers, and, you know, if it's not going in, then when LeBron does get back in the game, they're down 10, and LeBron has to exert so much energy on offense that if he's going to someone like Kawhi Leonard or James Harden on the defensive end, he's going to get cooked.
I think the Lakers are going to be really excited when Rondo comes back, because he can create for others, obviously. With his passing, even though he's a bit older, playoff Rondo is a real thing. I think the Lakers, especially with Avery Bradley out, you're already down one guard. You're going to need every single player. And if Rondo can come back from this injury and get back quick, I think he could be really helpful in the playoffs. because as you said, they don't really have anyone to create offense, and especially at the guard position, they're lacking a lot. Like they've had to put all their guard duties basically on Dion and like Caruso. So I think the Lakers will definitely be happy to see Rondo come back later.
We were talking about the small ball Rockets against the Lakers. I would like them, since the Rockets are small, I'd like them to give JaVale McGee and the Dwight Howard some post-up opportunities instead of just being alley-oop guys. I feel like the Dwight Howard, he's not that guy who was in Orlando. We all know that, but he's still very physically dominant, and he could definitely impose his will on someone like Robert Covington or PJ Tucker.
The problem with that is Dwight Howard or JaVale McGee, even when Dwight was at his very, very best, he never had post moves, and that's still the case.
He never had the post moves. He just bullied those guys, though.
And he's not as athletic as he once was. And yes, he's like half a foot taller than PJ Tucker, but I'm not sure if he's got the post moves and playmaking that if he's posted up PJ Tucker and a double team comes.
Once Dwight Howard gets the ball, I'm not there. There's gonna be a double team come, and I don't know what he's gonna do with the ball there. I don't really trust him to be able to find the open man from the double team. The Rockets, the way their small ball works is by constantly moving around the floor on defense and using their athleticism, not having big players like Capella. They use that in order to play defense on the big guys. And I don't think Dwight Howard's really capable. That's why I really wanted AD to step up, and he didn't do that, which was concerning for me in that game. Speaking of the West, Michael Porter Jr., he's been on fire for the last 4 games, 37, 30, 27, 23. What are your expectations for the Nuggets now that they have another star on their team, Josh?
My expectations are still the same because we haven't seen him do it at all in the playoffs, and I'm not sure if this is a similar hot streak to sort of TJ Warren, and might cool off a bit. But from when he was drafted, I thought that he was an absolute steal, and it was hard when he wasn't getting played to kind of see why. But defensively, he's an issue. On an island defensively, he's not great, but he can move his feet and he's got length, so it's not too bad. But once he's help side, it's if they get the drive, it is a bucket because he will not rotate across. He struggles to defend pick and rolls very effectively. He doesn't get around the screens as much as I'd like him to, and he's not great at covering the roll either, which leaves Denver in a bit of an issue. Particularly if it's a pick and roll with him and Jokic, that's not great defensively. But on offense, like you said, he's been fantastic. 26, 10, 2 in the bubble on 54, 42, and 96 splits. I expect the efficiency to go down at least, but really encouraging is what I'd like to say.
Yeah, I really liked how they played against the Thunder, and especially in overtime. Porter Jr. was incredible throughout the whole game. It seemed like every time he got the ball on offense, he scored. He looked really promising. I want to see a few more games with Jamal Murray and their whole team being healthy to see if he can keep that production and then formulate an opinion. I kind of feel like it's a bit early to tell how they're going to do in the playoffs yet because obviously they had some guys missing. So I think we're just going to have to wait to see how they do in the playoffs. If he can play really well and they can all mesh together, then I think they could be a scary team to face in the playoffs. But obviously the Clippers and the maybe even the Lakers are deep teams, so I don't know how they're going to do. I think it's just a bit too early to see. Still talking about the West, the Portland Trailblazers, it seems like they're only playing like 8 or 9 guys every night, which leads Lillard and sometimes even McCollum to play very high minutes. And then we saw in the game that Lillard missed 2 clutch free throws, which you don't see Lillard miss a lot in the clutch. Do you think that was caused from the fatigue, or do you think it was just a moment that he had, Josh?
Well, I think it was just something that happened. I don't think that we can blame it on the fatigue. But yeah, what you said about him not missing in the clutch and, particularly a free throw, 1.6% was the chance that someone with his free throw percentages misses both of them, which is concerning. But, like I said, it's just one of them things. And it's not like he choked. We know Dame Lillard doesn't choke. But like you said about his minutes, he's playing 42 minutes a game in the bubble. But they can't really afford to rest him, because without him, as much as I love CJ, their offense kind of slows down, and they don't get the production that they get when he's out there. I don't think he missed because of the workload, though. I think it was just, like I said, one of the things that just happens. I am concerned about the workload. The minutes he's playing, I think that it increases the chance of injury, and come playoff time, I don't want him to be burnt out. I want to see Dame at his best, and that isn't going to happen if he continues to play 42 minutes a game through the rest of the regular season.
I agree. I think Damian Lillard, the fatigue could be a problem, but Gary Trent's really stepped up in the bubble. Carmelo Anthony's really stepped up in the bubble. It concerns me when Dame's not on the floor that they don't play as great as they should. But I don't think the fatigue's that much of a problem. I don't know how Dame's going to perform again if there's another clutch time, but I think Dame's going to do fine because, as you said in the past, we know Dame's always great in the clutch, and I think that was just an unlucky moment for him. What do you think about Carmelo Anthony? He's been playing very well, especially in the clutch minutes. Josh, seems like you're excited about him. What do you think? Do you think he's going to be able to perform in the playoffs and in the future?
I'd just like to say, about a week ago, I told you efficient Melo is here to stay, and I've been absolutely right. He's averaging 16, 7, and 1, shooting 47% from 3 and 82% from the free throw line. He still can't guard anyone, but that's not what he's brought in to do. He's brought in to get buckets, and he's continuing to do that. He's hitting big shots. I think he said that the clutch gene doesn't leave you, something along those lines. And I'm not sure how clutch he was normally, but I said it a week ago, and I'm going to say it again. I've been really impressed with him. It's great to see him taking the opportunity that Portland are giving him. However, Damian Lillard saying that if they had Melo last year, they would have made the finals is an absolute joke. Did they get swept by Golden State last year in the conference finals?
They got Steph Curry averaged like 37, 8, and 8 on 62 shooting against them. Steph Curry just killed them.
Yeah, I don't think Carmelo's going to change that.
Speaking of Carmelo Anthony, I found a really interesting split about his efficiency. So on isolation attempts, Carmelo's still awful. He's shooting 36.8 effective field goal percentage on isolations. But in catch and shoots, Carmelo Anthony is shooting 57.2 effective field goal percentage. So I really like how he's taking a smaller role and playing off of CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard instead of being that black hole that he was in the past. And I think that's really the difference between Carmelo Anthony on these Portland Trailblazers versus him on the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Are we agreeing with my statement that LeBron's more washed than Melo yet, or are we still holding judgment on that?
Your hot take of the week.
Yeah,
I think
it's gonna be my hot take every week. I'm gonna stay with this hot take until the Blazers get eliminated.
Until the Blazers get eliminated. I think it's really impressive what Carmelo's doing at 36 years old. Being a future Hall of Famer, he's not letting ego take over him. He's taking that smaller role, taking the catch and shoot shots, which is really good because he's helping the team win. If he was just doing isolation every play, I don't think the Blazers would be as successful. And I think that's really impressive, being such a good
At
scorer,
all.
that you're willing to not go into isolation as much as maybe he wants to. And I think that's really good for them.
I'm not even sure if he wants to anymore. I think they seem to have been a very steep learning curve that Melo embarked on after he got. Was he cut from the Rockets? He was, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got cut from the Rockets
Yeah,
after like
and
10 games. They didn't even do anything.
so I think that I think he's learned that he's not the player he once was, and that his best bet to win a ring or perform well in the playoffs is playing off of, like Cameron said, Damian and CJ, who are much more dynamic players than Melo is right now. And if he can keep shooting these threes, he's gonna have a much longer career than it looked like he was going to about 12 months ago.
When he played for the Thunder, right about during that time, it looked like his career was going on a downward path, and it was going to be over in a couple of years. And I'm really happy that he revived his career, found a role on a team that it seems like he enjoys playing for. Portland, it seems like they have good chemistry. It seems like Dame really likes him. So I'm really happy for Melo. Moving on from Carmelo Anthony, Ben Simmons injured, likely out for the season unless they go on a deep playoff run. Maybe they'll get him back. Do you guys think the 76ers can win without Simmons, Jaylen?
I mean, they're offensively better with Ben Simmons off the floor because he's a real plus for them on defense, but offensively, he's very ineffective in the half-court set due to his ability to not shoot, and he's very stagnant off ball, and he seems scared to post up on smaller guards and smaller wings. So I think offensively, they're actually with the spacing they're going to have from Shake Milton starting in the space, and someone like Tobias Harris is going to have more ball handling duty. I think offensively, they're going to be much better, but defensively, they're going to feel the pain from not having Ben Simmons. So I think they're going to stay relatively the same, maybe a bit worse.
I was completely on board with that. I knew Jaylen would have my back on this one. I think the Sixers are a much better team when Joel Embiid is their only focal point on offense. And I think their ceiling's actually higher with Simmons not there, because it does allow for more spacing around Joel Embiid, and it also means Horford makes a lot more sense in the team with Simmons out, because you can't have two non-shooters and Horford out there. You can have one non-shooter and Horford though, and that works, particularly with Shake Milton playing the way he is, and Tobias Harris, can always hit shots. So I think their ceiling's actually got higher. Although I think that the Celtics now match up better with them without an oversized point guard, which means they might get bounced. The chance of them getting bounced in the first round's increased, but I think if they can get past the Celtics, then they're certainly in a better position to go against the Raptors, and then against Milwaukee. I mean, I guess it's just cross your fingers and pray that you can do something about that monster. Aside from that, I mean, I think that he's probably better off on a different team where they can build around him, rather than where they've got to try and fit him and Joel Embiid on the same side.
I think Embiid and Simmons don't really fit together.
At all.
When they play together, they do worse than when one of them's injured. I prefer that Embiid would have got injured if I was a 76ers fan, because Simmons is just so versatile. I wish Simmons had a three-point ball. I wish he started to improve it, but it didn't really show up, at least this season. So I don't really think it changes that much. As you guys said, I think they'll do a little bit worse, just because you lose one of your stars and you don't get anything for it, really, just other players getting more minutes. But I don't think they were really going too far anyways. And without Simmons, you're not really stopping Giannis. And even with him, it's going to be hard to stop the Bucks. So I don't really think they're going to change that much either.
Just quickly, if you were Philadelphia, what would you be looking to get if you were to trade Ben Simmons?
I'd like to see them trade Ben Simmons for someone like Joel Embiid, Zach LaVine, or another playmaking point guard that could stretch the floor. Because if they traded him for someone like Zach LaVine, the Bulls get their new franchise player, and they could build around Ben Simmons with like shooters and run some type of Giannis-like system in Milwaukee. And then the Philadelphia 76ers is someone that could create for others and could create for himself really well without interfering with what Joel Embiid does best.
Yeah, I think if I'm the Sixers, I'm trading for someone that fits well with Joel Embiid. If I'm trading Simmons, I think you need someone that's not going to need the ball like heavily. Like Simmons, the only way he's scoring is if he's getting the ball and getting to the hoop, unless he cuts and gets open. But he's mainly a passing point guard, and then he has his finishing ability. But I would trade for someone that fits well with Embiid. I don't really care who it is.
I was looking at like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, potential trades for Ben Simmons. I would think something like Ben Simmons to the Nuggets for Jamal Murray and Gary Harris. But that would really depend on, because Nikola Jokic isn't as dependent on his post game, but that would really depend on like if Ben Simmons would play like off ball like LeBron in 2013, more off ball like an actual power forward, that he could fit well there. While the Sixers would get Jamal Murray, who's a really good shot creator, and once again doesn't interfere with Joel Embiid.
Also, it means you get to see more of the tall ball lineup, so I'm a fan of that.
I'm a fan of tall ball over small ball. Yeah, but going back to the Simmons, I haven't really looked into too many trades for him. I just think someone that if they were to trade him, they need someone that would fit well with Embiid. Staying on the East, Siakam, aside from really today when he played against the Grizzlies, has not been performing well. What do you think that will mean for the Raptors, especially in the playoffs, if Siakam cannot perform, Josh?
I think that if Siakam's playing as he does, I think they're going to really struggle in the second round. In the first round, they're going to have, I think it's Orlando is who they're going to have in the second round, most likely. In the first round, sorry.
Yeah.
So, obviously, they've got enough to beat Orlando. But Siakam playing like this won't get them past the Celtics because Siakam needs to be at least as good as Tatum in that series. At least as good as Tatum if the Raptors are to go on and win it. And obviously, this in the bubble, he's averaging until today. This is before today's game. He's averaging 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists, and only shooting 38% from the field. And that is not good enough to be the guy or one of the 2 guys if you have Lowry ahead of him on a team that's got championship aspirations.
Before the bubble started, I was thinking Pascal Siakam was much better suited as a second option, as a first option. So last year when he was playing behind Kawhi Leonard, he was averaging 16.9 points per game, so basically 17 points per game, and he was shooting 6.8% over. He was shooting 6.8% over the league average true shooting percentage, so very efficient. And then this year, as the first option, he's averaging 23.1 points per game, but he's actually 0.8% under the true shooting league average. So he went from one of the more efficient second options to one of the more inefficient first options within the span of the year. So I definitely think he's not ready to be that man on a championship caliber team.
I think the way he's going to be the number one guy championship caliber team is with a coach like Nick Nurse, because their defense is so elite. Everyone on that team fits together. And although Siakam is the number one guy, like almost everyone it can step up at each game. Like Lowry can step up. And I think the way that the Raptors will win is with their defense. I don't think it's the offense that will win them games. But
and their depth.
Yeah. But definitely Siakam's going to have to perform. If he's scoring like 12, 13 points a game, they're not going to have enough offensive capability compared to another team. If they face like a high-powered offensive team, I don't think they'll be able to match him unless their defense really clamps up, which is certainly possible. But it's going to be interesting to see how they play. Thanks again for listening to the Legal Alerts podcast. Make sure you follow Legal Alerts on all social media platforms, and thanks for watching.